Hi everyone, and welcome to this episode of NTU Anxiety, a podcast covering everything health and wellbeing, recorded by students for students. Today's discussion will focus on disability health and inclusion. My name is Eleanor and I'm a disability officer here at Nottingham Trent University. I work in the disability and inclusion team within Student Support Services. My role focuses on supporting students with a physical, sensory or long-term health condition. So that includes a wide range of conditions and support needs, such as chronic fatigue, epilepsy, diabetes, IBS, as well as hearing, visual and mobility impairments. Within the Disability Inclusion Support Services, we also have specialist autism, dyslexia and mental health mentoring teams. I'm joined today by 3 students who will be sharing their personal experiences of managing their health condition or disability at university, the support they have received and some top tips. We're also joined by a BSL interpreter to help support communication. So I'm now going to hand over to our student speakers to introduce themselves and tell us more about what they are studying and a little bit about their learning difference, health, mental health condition and/or disability. Izzy, would you like to kick off the conversation?
Sure. Hi, I'm Izzy. I'm a first year creative writing student at NTU. I have autism, ADHD, and misophonia, all of which impact my sort of time spent in the classroom quite a bit. Yeah.
Thanks, Izzy. Josh, would you like to go next?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joshua Hardy. I'm a second year biomedical science student. I have type 1 diabetes, which I've had since the age of 7. The way that diabetes impacts me during my studies is that when I'm either have a low or a high, it impacts me mood and how my concentration levels throughout exams, lectures, etc.
Thank you. And Zoe?
Hi there, my name is Zoe. I'm a third year, a last year student. I'm a fine arts student at Nottingham Trent University. I'm profoundly deaf. I was born deaf. I use BSL, British Sign Language, to communicate. And I'm using an interpreter today, as you can see, to support through my studies. Yeah, without the interpreter, I couldn't learn anything. It's really, really important to have interpreters support through my time at university.
Thank you. So students from obviously all different courses with quite different experiences that we'll hear more about as well. Thank you. I was wondering firstly if you could tell us more about the interactions that you've had with the NTU disability support team. So at what point did you first speak with the support services? How did that go? And why do you feel it is important to have that conversation?
I can go if you like.
Yeah.
So when I first applied to university, I had to look at DSA, Disability Support Allowance, for interpreting support, and it was really, really difficult. It was, during COVID 2020, so you couldn't meet anyone face to face, so everything was online, especially the meetings. So it was quite a struggle. And I remember I first met, it feels like years ago now, everything was online. It was quite a struggle. I hated doing things online because I couldn't see the interpreters. They would freeze on the screen. It's really frustrating. And I felt, the support, it was really valuable from the team because it gave me a lot of, it helped me to achieve and get to third year of university, the support I had. They supported my needs. If I had any problems, I could ask, for more interpreters, or, I've struggled with my written English, my, English structure, so I could help with my English and getting things ready for my final submissions. And it was really useful. And also having a note taker was really good. I could have written feedback and notes because I'm deaf. Sometimes I don't understand spoken English, so having those notes was really useful. So yeah, I had those kind of 3 different modes of support, and they've been really, really useful.
And was all of that support something that you discussed and arranged before you came to university?
Yes, some of it was before, but I think because of COVID, there were some issues with that. I think, before COVID, everything was a bit normal. I met people at the open day and was able to have discussions through that. And, with the pandemic, it was impossible to do that. So, it was a bit more difficult to have some of that online because you can, everything was virtual. You couldn't meet people face to face. So that's why I kind of struggled understanding, and communicating in that way. And when I started university, it was quite a struggle, I've got to say. It wasn't easy, I'll say. You get used to it.
Did you manage to attend an in-person open day? Was that before COVID?
Yeah, I think the open day was February 2019, I think. So yeah, it was before COVID. Yeah.
Did anyone else attend an open day and speak with the disability support team?
Oh yeah, I was just going to say, I remember me and another deaf person were at the open day actually, and when we looked around, I saw there was the disability team. It was one of the buildings, can't remember what it's called, starts with an N. And I remember the disability team were in there and had a chat with Jane, I think. Yeah, I think it was Jane I had a chat with from the disability team, and she told me a bit about, you know, the application process and funding, DSA and everything relating to that. And it was really, really helpful, the advice I got on that open day.
Yeah, that's great. And we do normally have people, representatives from student support at the open days in Newton at City Campus or at whichever campus you're at. So I'm glad you found that helpful. And Izzy, did you want to say something a little bit more about open days as well?
While I attended an open day, it was actually my parents that met the disability support team first. And they were, even without meeting me physically in person, were already coming up with ways to help me. They sent them home with another prospectus and stuff because I hadn't initially planned to come to NTU. And it was all sorts of plans, people I could contact. It was wonderful. So when I went to my first open day and actually met who is one of my lecturers, I sort of had those contacts ready to back me up already, which made me feel a lot more able to access these open days and other resources for potential students.
Yeah, I think the open days can be a really good way of just getting more familiar with the environment and also meeting the staff team as well. So it's not necessarily just talking to the support services, it's speaking with the course team, finding out about all the other services available like the library, accommodation. So yeah, generally we do really encourage students, if they are considering coming to NTU, to book onto one of the open days so you can get that experience and get that feel of talking with the team and with students as well. There's quite often student ambassadors there that can sort of answer direct questions about student life as well. Is there anything anyone else wants to say about why they think it's maybe important to speak with the NTU disability support team?
Oh, I've just got something.
Yeah.
So I think for the open day, so for me, I didn't have much of an idea, you know, about communicating with disabled people. So when I got into the open day, I didn't really understand, you know, what could be there. I was quite surprised because I had a bit of a look online. I researched the website, but I didn't see much about the disability support. So I didn't know what provisions there were. And I think it was quite funny because before university, I didn't really understand, you know, thinking about other deaf students. So seeing that they'd already had some terms of support before, so it was all quite new to me, and it was difficult for me. Yeah, I think maybe there could be a bit more on the website even, or on social media, talking about disability support they have, so people can research it for themselves and find that information easily. Because I know last year, I know a bit better now, I know about disability, but at that time I didn't know much. So maybe that's something that could be improved a bit more on the website of what the offer is.
Yeah, and I think the more that we have these kind of conversations and get, tell people about what support is available is beneficial as well. So yeah, no, I think there's a lot of information when you are deciding on going to university. There's a lot of different web pages and information out there. So sometimes finding it and making sure it's on the most relevant pages can be difficult. So it's definitely something to keep in mind.
Yeah, it can be really tricky.
And I think Zoe has already mentioned Disabled Students Allowance, so DSA. Is that something that you have all applied for? And how has that helped you, the DSA support?
On that note, yes, because I got given a laptop which had all these different apps that would help me revise in unique different ways. So like Dragon, which I'd speak into the microphone and it just writes down what I say for each. So if I forget when I'm having a low, because when I'm having a low, I tend to forget, or I'm not in the correct zone. So that's really helpful to Yeah.
Yeah, so some of the software has been helpful with your studies. And Zoe, obviously you mentioned a bit about your support, and Izzy, did you want to say a bit more about DSA?
So I applied for DSA and I didn't really know what my options were in terms of support I could receive in the classroom and outside the classroom. But like Josh, I managed to get a laptop, including a lot of software that I didn't know existed that has drastically changed how I learn. Um, I went to an online school for 7 years and barely took notes because I couldn't quite keep up with what was going on in the classroom and then taking notes. Whereas now I leave it recording, I use Glean, it makes a transcription of the entire lecture for me. So if I zone out or maybe misunderstand something or mishear it, I can always cross-reference it with my notes. And now I have so many notes and I'm really proud of all of them. But I wouldn't have been able to do it without the support that I've been given through DSA.
Yeah, and I think there is, since I've started working within disability support, I've learned a lot more about different types of technology and software that can be really helpful. And, once that software is set up as well, it's often things that are going to be beneficial throughout real life, really, like after your studies, going into work, having those strategies and tools that just make things a little bit easier. It's really beneficial. And was there any other sort of support that you've had, Izzy, in terms of sort of like practical support or mentoring or one-to-one support that was funded through the DSA?
Yep, I get some one-to-one support, and it's honestly life-changing. I won't lie. It's lovely to just have someone there to sort of bounce things off of and just be like, I'm understanding this correctly. I'm dealing with this in a manner that makes sense. It's quite empowering, really, to navigate, especially post-pandemic when everyone's been online all the time. Um, and I also get study skill support, which is really helpful for my assignments. Sometimes it will just involve going through a question and making sure I understand it and breaking it down, which sounds really, really silly. But to me, again, it's helpful to just have someone there to go through it with me and knowing I have resources available through the university and also having someone who can contact my lecturers if I need a hand with something and don't feel up to it myself.
Yeah, and that's definitely something we try to do. So in my role as a disability officer, I'll quite often sort of liaise with tutors on behalf of students, just because it can be quite stressful. There's a lot of things happening, you're not quite sure who to talk with. So having that liaison, and I guess with the one-to-one support, like the mentoring or sort of study skill support, that must be quite helpful with that transition, because it is quite a change coming out of either school, college, or online learning. Going into the university environment is quite different. So I imagine that does sort of help with that transition, having a regular point of contact that you can sort of go to. Brill. And sort of following that, so I've heard quite a few different ways that you've sort of accessed support through DSA. What advice would you give to a student who has not accessed any of the support or hasn't spoken with anyone from the disability and inclusion team? So if they're not quite sure what to expect, what sort of advice would you offer?
So I think in terms of advice, I'd say you should apply for DSA. It doesn't matter if you kind of need support, you say, oh, I maybe only need a bit of support. Because, if you don't apply for DSA, you'll learn nothing, you won't achieve anything, is my thought. Because I know some students are quite knowledgeable about applying for DSA, but some, really struggle with it. Some really struggle with the grades and achieving it. So I think, it doesn't matter if it's only a little bit of support, it's still really valuable to apply. And you never know what might happen. Maybe something might happen, you might have a problem, you've got support in place already, and it'll be really helpful. For university, for myself, I think it's really helped me enjoy the support I have. And I'm almost finished now. It's been 3 years that I've had it, and it's been so valuable the whole time. And yeah, it again doesn't matter if it's a little bit of support, PA support, it's all really useful.
Yeah, I think one thing that I sort of say when I'm speaking with students as well is you don't necessarily have to take on all the support that they recommend. You will normally sort of go for a meeting where they'll make recommendations, and it's up to you if you think, oh, I want to give that a try, or that's not maybe for me, and they might recommend something else. So there is that flexibility. And I think sometimes, yeah, you won't even know what is available unless you do go through that process of applying. Izzy, did you want to add to that?
Kind of piggybacking off that, sometimes it can feel like you shouldn't seek out support if you feel like you only need a little bit, but it's just you know, if you're worried, it's normal to want to reach out and stuff. There are no stupid questions. If you think something would help you, maybe not right now, but in the future, if you know when you get overwhelmed, it can be hard to communicate with people. It's really helpful to get that in place beforehand. I have things in place to maybe change assignment deadlines because if I'm struggling, sometimes I don't feel able to reach out and articulate that to someone. So just knowing it's there and I can refer to it when I'm not having a great time is reassuring to me now while I'm doing okay. Because I know if I am maybe having a bad day, it's not the end of the world because things are already in place.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say that's really good advice because I think if you haven't got those little things in place, like the flexibility with extensions, so we tend to look at putting those in place through the access statement, which is basically an NTU document that recommends reasonable adjustments that are there to support your studies and to notify your course team about any support you might need. So I suppose, like you said, is if there's a time that you were feeling quite stressed and quite unwell and you hadn't got those in place, it becomes even more stressful to then know, how do I go about doing that? Whereas if you've got them in place just in case, it's having that option and knowing the support is there if you need it sometimes. Following sort of what you've said about some of the support you've accessed, is there sort of one particular either adjustment, so something from your access statement, or one particular support that you've been provided through DSA that really stands out? Like, is there one thing you would sort of each like to say that you find most helpful in relation to support?
I can go. So before I applied for DSA, I thought it would just be interpreters would be the only thing that I'd need. Oh, just interpreters. You know, and then through the first year of my university with submission and writing deadlines, I realised I need more support in that area. So if I have a problem with English writing or something like that, someone to adjust my English and the note taking as well, because you know sometimes if there's no interpreter for lectures, then I've got someone that can give me all the notes. So that's two more bits of support that I hadn't thought of before. I thought, you know, it would just be the one, it would just be interpreters, but I've had those two additional bits of support that I hadn't planned for. And I think DSA were ready to cover that and they could cover a lot of things, so it was really useful.
That's great. Is there something that stands out for you, Josh? I think you mentioned Dragon. Would that be your key, or is there something else that you find really helpful?
So Dragon is a very good one, but I know it's not yet, but the exam season that will be beginning in May. I've been allowed to be put in a smaller room than the exam hall in Clifton with like rest breaks. I know I'm talking a little while ago, back in GCSEs, I had rest breaks and I was put in a smaller room. It's just less overwhelming because diabetes, it can get a lot of pressurized and then it can just affect me mentally and my bloods, and it just lose concentration. So yeah, that one is my overall standout.
Yeah, that's a really good one, actually. And I think one thing sometimes students forget is if you've had support in place previously at GCSEs or A levels, it won't kind of automatically carry through to the university. So we need to be made aware of that so we can, you know, let the exams team know, let the course team know. So I think that's a really important message that, you know, if you've previously had support that you found beneficial or you think you might need some adjustments in exams, then to definitely get in touch with us and let us know so we can try and put that support in place to make exams a little bit easier because they're stressful enough as it is, aren't they? So is there one particular thing that stands out for you, Izzy, in terms of either your access statement or your DSA support?
I think all of it sort of works together to create something really, really supportive. But if I had to pick one thing, it would definitely be Glean. It's the software I use to record my lectures. I can put little timestamps on there if I feel myself maybe zoning out a bit, or if my misophonia gets triggered. I can go back through the lecture later on and get it transcribed, meaning that I don't have to expose myself to a trigger sound, but I can still engage with the lecture properly. And it's things like that that have allowed me to stay in the classroom because in physical education before now, I always had to leave if there was a trigger. Now I feel empowered to sort of stay put because I know that I can always go over it later. I'm not missing out if I do need to step away.
That's really positive. I love that word, empowered. That's great to hear that it's helped in that way. Have there been any particular challenges that you faced during your studies that stand out, and how have you overcome these?
I can go. So it was through my first year going through COVID and lockdown, I think the first lockdown, or going through the last lockdown, so looking kind of 2021, when I was trying to, I found it really difficult because with interpreters, they would have internet issues, there'd be freezing, those technology problems. So I struggled a little bit to understand what was being said. And when at the end of the lecture, I'd ask the interpreter to support me for a bit of extra time with notes, and ask the lecturer if they could just give me a bit more information, or if they could email me some of the important points from it. Or I'd really try with face-to-face stuff. I'd ask for face-safe or for transcriptions and that sort of thing, but it was really, really hard and to overcome. And I had a lot of friends as well who were able to help me at that time with learning. So, for example, recently I had an interpreter off ill, so I missed. I couldn't attend a lecture because there's no interpreter, and they were off. And one of my friends came to me and they said, "Oh, these are all the important things that happened. This is all the important information. Oh, here are all the elements. Here's some tips," and telling me that really helped. And also having those lectures recorded so I can watch with captions. I can have a look at transcript and then look at it later. That was really, really helpful, and that helped me overcome some of the challenges I had. So I was quite lucky in that.
Yeah, I imagine sort of studying during the pandemic and that change from face-to-face to online was quite a big challenge, and I think it took everyone a lot of time to get used to working on Teams and overcoming some of those technical challenges as well, which can still happen now, can't they? So yeah, I imagine that was a big one. But I guess knowing that you can just check in with your lectures after, or have that follow-up conversation and check in with your peers is really helpful to know. Is there anything that Josh or Izzy you'd like to add about any challenges you've experienced?
So I struggled a lot in GCSEs and A levels with understanding questions. I would read them one way, and it would turn out I'd interpreted them completely not wrong, but differently, due to the autism, the ADHD, all sorts of things. And with my first assessment, even before it was going to be graded, I was really, really stressed out. I could look at the grading matrix and see what I was maybe meant to do. But just reaching out to my lecturers and understanding that I was an adult now and I could have these conversations with them and just say, hey, I'm struggling. I want to do my best. And I've tried on my own. Could you explain maybe where I should get started with this? Can you maybe look at my approach and, give me some feedback? That helped massively. The first time I got it done, I felt a lot more able to do it the next time. And I realized there's no shame in asking for maybe rephrasing of questions or just a starting point. You're there to learn. People want you to learn. There's no wrong answer. And I think getting used to that was very, very helpful to overcome early on.
And have you found that sort of teaching staff have been quite supportive, approachable? Do they have office hours and things like that that you can chat with them easily?
Yeah. I've emailed them a lot of the time. Sometimes they're very silly emails where I'm like, hey, will this count towards this? And they'll be like, it's okay, Izzy. It's fine. It won't. And they're lovely and reassuring. I've never been told that's a bit of a silly question to be asking. It's always, I understand why you're asking it. Here's, my answer. You're doing okay. And I think it's nice to hear that after so many years of like worrying and not really being able to be told it's okay because of how formulaic things can be.
Yeah, I guess it's always better to ask, isn't it, if you're not sure, even if it's just for that reassurance. And what about you, Josh? What did you want to add?
So like the challenges that I faced, well, last year my diabetes were literally all over the place. I didn't apply to the help from the disability support team straight away because I didn't know, I wasn't aware that what support there was available. So I went through day by day, trying to manage my blood sugars between the range it should be, but I had zero support from the hospital, and I spoke to me like personal tutor to just ask for advice and stuff, but it got to me to the end. Once my exams were done and the damage were done, then I was like, I need to get some help. So if you're not sure of the thingy, just take one day at a time, but it's worth asking for help no matter what.
Yeah, no, that's a good message. I think that's kind of come across from what you've all said, really, that you don't know what support's there until you know, find that out, even if it's just initially chatting with your course team, who then might signpost you. If you're not quite sure where to go, then just ask whoever you do already know if they can put you in touch with someone, I guess. And then next question is around managing well-being. So I guess we all know that certain aspects of student life can be quite stressful. So how do you look after your well-being, and what helps you to cope with stress?
Yeah, I've never used to ask for support. I kind of with stress, I'd ask my friends who kind of know me quite well, and my friends would be quite reassuring, and you know, I can help and have like a one-to-one. And I think as well with some of my friends learning my language, that's helped me overcome some stress. I mean, first year was a lot worse with COVID and all those implications. And it was quite new to me as a person. I felt quite lonely as well, and there was a lot of stress there. And I think my well-being got a lot worse. But Jane from the team, she would email me and she would, you know, give me advice. I'd ask what she'd recommend about overcoming stress, and we'd email back and forth. And she was very reassuring. She helped me feel a lot better, and she talked about more support. And I think after in second or third year, COVID was finished a bit more, and I was getting on. I had new friends, and that really, really helped. Yeah, especially my new friends. I think that's so, so important to lessen stress. Yeah, second year it did get a bit better. Third year, you know, it's my last year, so yeah, there's deadlines, the assessments, yeah, exhibitions, gallery work. There is that stress that naturally comes with it, but I know I've got my friends there to make it all enjoyable.
Yeah, so having that support network is important for you. What about you, Josh? Is there anything that helps you to sort of manage stress or look after your well-being?
So now I've got all the support available. Well, with the uni, with hostel, I managed to pester them to actually improve areas in the hospital. So that's but on just for my part to help me, just make sure my blood's under control, like make sure I'm doing everything I can, and just divide my time, so study time as well as, you know, just having a bit, you know, like relaxation time, you know, putting on your favorite program. I don't know what everyone's favorite program is, but you know, stuff like that helps decrease stress levels a bit.
Yeah, having that break from studies, I think it's really important to make sure you are still factoring time in to relax and do things that you enjoy, and you're not sort of sat at your computer 24/7, definitely. And I think we spoke about how we both like Peter Kay when we were chatting about things. So yeah, if you've got a good comedy or something that just makes you feel good, it's good to know that you've got those little strategies that you can just have that bit of time, a bit of downtime. Is there anything you'd like to add at all, Izzy?
Honestly, when it comes to keeping myself from being too stressed, I am kind of the person that lives on stress. So I've always got something I want to be doing and stuff. But I think just breathing in and remembering that the world won't end if, you know, maybe I struggle a bit to get something done. I just have to email someone and say, hey, I've had a bit of a weird week, you know, just dealing with that and sending the email and getting it out of the way and then shutting my laptop and putting it out of my mind essentially has been very helpful. That and sharing things I'm stressed about with my support. Caroline, I love her so much. She's wonderful. I've had a couple of events recently where I've been really stressed out, and the next time we meet, she'd be like, "How did it go? Are you okay?" She's emailed my lecturers before now to sort of celebrate on my behalf because she knows I don't like to talk about it. And it's just things like that that keep me from getting too stressed because I'm like, I've got to tell Caroline about this. I've got to tell her how it's gone. And it's just, you know, saying it to someone else and having that going on and feeling like someone else is invested almost, it makes everything less stressful and I felt more able to do things because of it.
Yeah, and I think having that time to reflect as well, because if you're talking to someone before you're about to do something that you may be worried about and stressful about, and then a couple of weeks later you're talking about how it went and it was probably a lot better than you expected, it's nice then, it kind of reassures you that actually quite often things aren't always as bad as we think, or we manage, even if we're really stressed and worried, we do manage to kind of get through these things. So yeah, I think that's really good advice. And also the advice about taking a breath, I'm definitely trying to do that a little bit more and be more conscious, because sometimes when you are busy and you can feel yourself holding your breath, can't you? And sometimes you do just need to take a moment and remember to breathe properly. It sounds like a basic thing, but I think it is really important. And then I wondered if there are any networks or student groups, societies that you would recommend at all.
Yeah. So I'm a final year student, but another one of my roles is at the Nottingham Trent Students' Union. So my role is I'm the Disability and Accessibility Network. I'm the vice chair. So I'm responsible for, school council, no, sorry, university, not school. So I'm, do council things, and I give tips, areas for improvement, advice. So for example, the lift's been broken before, we've had that, and there's been issues with that. So I've asked the school, I've worked with the council to fix the lift, because, disabled students need to be able to use the lift, and it takes 2 months to get it fixed, that sort of thing, and the stress involved. There's issues with the toilets, if they need more accessible support, any improvements for the future. And so that's part of my role, as that I'm deaf. So I've got experience of, being disabled, and it's really valuable to be able to do that. I know I'll be finished soon with university, but it's really, really good. I've met a lot of people through it, and it's made me more confident in my doing the role. And I hope that, in my role, I've been able to develop some things, some positive things for the future, and things that I can, show myself.
And how did you find out about the Disability and Accessibility Students Network? So if someone was listening and maybe sort of interested, was it through the NTSU, so the Student Union website, or was it just word of mouth?
I think, I can't remember, it was quite a while ago. I think last year, I think I found out via an email. Someone had emailed me saying, oh, disability and accessibility. And, I caught that because I was like, oh, disability, deafness, it's on my radar. And it was quite interesting. And they were looking for a vice chair. So I applied for it. And I think only 5 people. There are only 5 places. So it was quite a challenge. And I'm, managed to get a place in the end, which was really exciting. And yeah, and part of the union, it was quite scary because the president of the union was there for the process. But yeah, I was really glad I did it.
Oh, it sounds really interesting. And is it something that is it been regular weekly meetings, monthly meetings, or how sort of often have you met?
It's every month.
Oh, real. No, that's really interesting. Are there any other, Zoe, is there any other sort of networks, societies or groups, or just social activities that you've got involved in and enjoyed at NTU?
Yeah, so in my first year, I was president of the British Sign Language group. So I was teaching sign language, and first year was COVID lockdown, so I was doing it online, but I was teaching every Thursday night, 2 hours of BSL. It was hard work. Having to use the PowerPoint presentations, getting those all set up, prepping beforehand, finger spelling, doing basic sign language, getting communication tips and teaching that. And I did that through my first year, and then it stopped because I had to focus on my course and my other things. But yeah, in first year, there was a lot happening. I think I was really involved in the social side of it. And, lots of students wanted to learn sign language, which was really valuable. And then second year, didn't have as much. And then third year, where we're in now, yeah, the Disabled Student Society, and from what I'd done before.
Yeah, I bet that was a really good experience with the BSL Society and having that experience of delivering and organisation skills and so on as well. I actually went to one of their workshops recently. They did something for Sign Language Awareness Week. So yeah, it's really great to sort of see the different activities that are being held across the uni. Josh or Izzy, are there any other events or activities that you've got involved in, not necessarily disability or inclusion related, just things that you've enjoyed that you might recommend to other students? Because I know there are kind of a wide range of societies and so on across the university.
Well, I'm just going to say join whatever clubs you find interesting or you like to enjoy. For me, it was last year, but this year's been a bit of a struggle because August I had a seizure, so that I had to give up my license for 6 months. So I had to rely on the bus services. So waking up 4 in the morning to catch a 5 o'clock bus for a 9 a.m. lecture and not come back till 9 o'clock at night. So it's just knackering. So I haven't been, but it's allowed me to focus on my studies. But yeah, it is worth going out, but I can't.
Yeah, and I guess there are times it's recognizing, how much time you've got and making sure you've got that time to relax as well. But I think that's good advice about looking what's out there that you enjoy. I know in the welcome activities there are often lots of taster sessions and give it a go, and you can join societies and just go for one session, see if you like it. There's not necessarily a big commitment. So yeah, there's always things happening. So it's worth just having a look and speaking to people if you are interested in different societies or events and activities. So kind of coming towards the end of the conversation now, so it's kind of wrapping up on what we've already spoken about and some of the advice that you've already given, but just wondered if you were speaking to a prospective student, so a new student who is looking at coming to NTU, or maybe they're undecided and they're looking at different universities, what sort of advice would you give someone who is considering applying to NTU? So any top tips for preparing or anything like that?
So I'd say, yeah, before I recommended, so DSA, student finance, and making sure you, follow all that as you apply to university. So I'd say, PDA, so it doesn't matter, if it's big support, small support you need, making sure you have that chance at the open day, you get to meet people, you look at the disability team and the support that's available. I know, before, for me in COVID, yeah, there will be, for the future, there'll be more opportunities for student, and you can make sure you're asking support and making sure you're aware of everything before you start university and all the options you've got. So the student applications, the roles, experiences, and yeah, make sure you ask a lot of questions.
That's good advice, thank you. And then Izzy, as you're in your first year, sort of coming towards the end of first year actually, so we're currently recording this as we're about to go into the Easter holidays in 2023. What other advice would you give to other first year students at NTU?
I think just be gentle with yourself. University is a whole new experience, and the pandemic already sort of interrupted our education and affected everything. So be patient and allow yourself to enjoy getting used to it. If you're anything like me, you'll be reaching the end of your first semester and being like, oh gosh, can I do it all again? You know, I almost don't want to go to second year just because I've enjoyed first year so much. I never want to leave. But just make sure to establish communication with your lecturers. There's nothing too small. You can just say, hey, I maybe had a bad night's sleep, I couldn't do the work, and they'll be understanding. They'll appreciate you letting them know. They'll appreciate the effort you make. You get out what you put in. And even if maybe you don't manage to do every single task, just making it clear that you're doing your best will mean the world to them. And, it'll show what kind of student you are. Not all of us are the same. Not all of us can make it to 100% of lectures. So just do what you can and put your health first sometimes.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Do you feel like it's gone really quickly since you first started?
Yeah, I want to slow down time. I'm excited for second year, but at the same time, I've just loved first year so much. It feels like I've been here forever. I can't believe I haven't been here forever, really.
And Josh, you are in your second year now, so you're kind of coming towards the end of second year. So do you have any advice for second year students?
So for advice for second year students, be prepared for all the modules that you'll be doing, because yes, first year is a little way easier than second year. I do grant. So be prepared, like for all the, because it tells you the modules in the when you're applying for the course. Be prepared. Also, make sure you know who's who, like who's your personal tutor, etc., and just get stuck in of what activities the lecturers and outside other clubs are doing to help you manage your well-being, etc.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's another key message, to make sure you know who you can reach out to and who your personal tutor is. That's definitely a good point of contact. And then Zoe, what about you as a final year student? Is there any advice you would give to other final years?
Yeah, I know I've only got a bit yet before I finish university. It's not long, but I'd say for students, just take your time, keep calm. Yeah, I know there is worry about, what you're going to do after finding a job, and I have that concern myself, but I hope, with third year, keeping my well-being up, looking after myself, and, taking control of deadlines and exams. There's a lot of support out there, and you're not alone. You've got your friends. Make sure you, go out for a drink, enjoy the Easter break, have a few drinks, go out, go shopping, go outside and see your family if possible. And yeah, don't study every day. You do need a break. I think it's really, really important to switch off. You never know what the future's going to bring, so just focus on what you can do now. And then after you agree, see where you go. Don't rush into anything. I know a lot of people straight away, go into jobs, but it's better just to take a bit of time and pace yourself. That's what I'd really advise, especially in terms of mental health. Just be gentle with yourself and have some plans ready, but make sure you've got time to manage everything, especially deadlines, your planning, that sort of thing. And yeah, go out, enjoy yourself, be with people.
That's great. I think there's some really valuable advice there. I was just jotting down a few things from what you all kind of said. So I guess some of the key takeaways that we've talked about has been the DSA, so Disabled Students Allowance, and getting prepared ideally before you start university with that. Looking at open days so you can visit the university, preparing and communicating your needs, so keeping in touch with relevant support contacts and course leaders and so on. Be gentle with yourself, be prepared and know who you can reach out to for support, and keep calm and pace yourself and look after yourself. So I think there's some great advice there. Is there anything that anyone else would like to add before we do finish? Is there anything that we've not spoken about that you think, oh, this is really important, or this is really key that I've not had a chance to say?
I think I've got something. I know I'm thinking about, after I finish university, I'm hoping that the sport will carry on in the future, and I hope the sport will improve, because I remember, when I applied for university, I didn't know anything about the sport and I had to research it. But I think it's really important that, support needs to improve in general in the future. So just, I hope we'll be lucky in the future for anyone that's studying. It just keeps improving and they'll be supported when necessary. And I hope universities will keep on supporting their students, because it's so important that they have the support they need. And yeah, it's just say good luck to the students.
Thank you. So I just want to say a very big thank you to Zoe, to Anna, to Izzy and Josh for all being part of this episode and conversation today, and helping to raise awareness of health, wellbeing, disability and inclusion. And thank you to everyone who is listening. If you would like to get in touch with the Disability and Inclusion team at Nottingham Trent University, you can email disability.support@ntu.ac.uk or visit the NTU website. And you can also search for NTU Student Services on social media.